I am here, and hopefully you guys will be soon too, because I have been so ridiculously excited for tonight's video. So I'm gonna give everybody just a few minutes to join in. All right, so there we go. Hi everyone. This is Becky from Silhouette Life Inspiration Box. I'm very excited for you to join me tonight. And hopefully you're excited too, because I have just been dying to do this video and show you guys this really neat design. We did the mom design last week, which don't get me wrong, Mother's Day, yeah, we need to focus on the moms, but grandmas are pretty darn important too. And this is just an overall great option when you want to use a design that has a lot of words. So, we used grandma, but um, you could easily, I'm not saying you have enough children to fill up this heart, but, you could do this for a baseball team or a Girl Scout troop or something like that, where, it's just a really fun design to bring everybody together. So, if you're joining us and you, um, are working with Cricut Design Space, that's a-okay. You're more than welcome to join us. But I do want you to know that we did this tutorial in Cricut Design Space on Monday. So you can follow along tonight. But if you want the nitty gritty on doing it in your native software, then you can jump over to Monday's video and catch the replay and ask any questions there. So with that being said, I really also want to get your guys' feedback on more videos that you want to see. So if you have any of that in the comments, be sure to post them. And I will do anything I can to make sure that we get that content out to you, as well as questions. I always love questions. I just can't say that enough. Okay, so with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. So, the very first thing to talk about is okay, how do you get the heart? Now, there are a couple different ways that you can do that, but here I'm going to start a new window. For tonight's project, here, and I'll go back to 12 by 12. For tonight's project, we are going to import an image that we downloaded. Oh, now I got to find it. Let's see. Downloads. There we go. Okay. And you can use any heart shape. This one is not, I'm not saying it's not special. It's a pretty good heart, but it's not like the only heart available. And I'm going to trace this as an outline. Okay, and I'm increasing my threshold because watch, when it was on its default, you had this part here that didn't connect. So we are going to increase the threshold and make sure that I get a solid yellow fill right there. Okay, so I can hit trace. All right, so we are traced. We will delete that image. We do not need it anymore. And truth be told, I'm going to release compound path because we actually only need one of these hearts. So they're about the same. So I'll just delete whichever one I pulled out. That leaves me with one heart design. All right. What I'm going to do, not that it's absolutely necessary, but I really like this center to page. So you can click on your transform panel here, and the center to page is right here, this one that looks just like a page. And the reason I do that is because now I'm going to type out grandma, and you can select any font that you want, but I have one that I've been using. Well, now I'm not going to find it. I don't remember what it was called. But it definitely started with an H. So let's see. Eeny, meeny, miny, moe. Well, I know it's here. Was it this one? No, but this one's pretty cool too. Okay, so we'll stick with this one. I'm going to turn, I want transparent, fill with black so that you guys can see it. Okay, now my script looks good, but I do want to call attention just real quick while we're looking at it. You can see how my pieces don't quite line up seamlessly. So I can come down here to my character spacing and decrease it just a little, and that makes it look more natural. So just remember that's something that you can do. I'm going to right click and weld that together. And I'm going to right click again and group it. Okay, so then slide back over. And the reason that I did my center to page was now I can also do that with grandma. And that gives me grandma in the center and the heart in the center. And that makes them centered to each other. Okay, now the only reason for doing that is to give me an idea of where my names can go. So if that gets in your way and you need to move it, that is okay, because once this design is done, we can come back and do the same thing to get it back in the center. All right, so next let's go ahead and start with some names. So I will start, so when I'm choosing fonts, I like to complement a nice script font like this with, I used fun uppercase letters. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and type. I have my caps lock on. I'm going to use Braden. That's my oldest. You guys are going to be pros with my kids' names before this is over. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate my text box. See, I've got it selected. And let me see, I'm going to go ahead and fill it with black and change my line color to transparent. That doesn't do anything other than make it more visually appealing, and filling it with black also helps you to be able to see it too. So I'm going to duplicate that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We'll do 10. We may not need all those, but we'll do 10. And Christian and Madison and Hayden. Now at that point, I'm kind of out of grandkids, so we can start filling in some names. Let me see, we used Abby. We can use, who else did I use? I used Ricky, and I used Aubrey, and I used Haley, and what, maybe Lucas, and I don't know. Do we need another boy? Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. I don't know. Let's use Brittany, because my friend Kathy is joining in on Brittany's page. So with all those selected, now we can go through and start choosing our fonts. Okay, and you can use any cute little font that you want. I'm not going to focus on this too much. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't use the same font for all of them. I just think it looks more fun, when they're all different fonts. So let's see, we'll use Ochre, and we'll use Jackson, and we'll use Pinsetter. And there's just a ton of different cutesy fonts. Oh, bunny ears. Oh, that one's really cute. And what else? Now, don't forget, if you're having problems choosing fonts, there is the Word Market website that you can go and it will pull in all the fonts on your computer. So don't forget that that's out there. That is a really cool tool that that you want to take advantage of. Okay. All right, so there we have 10 different fonts. Now I'm going to make Madison a little smaller because that font just came in a little bigger than the others, and the same with Braden. I'll make it a little smaller because you don't want any of them to be super overwhelming. You know, because then next thing you know, somebody's going to say you're playing favorites. All right, I'm going to make Hayden a little bit bigger. All right, so here comes the fun part. And another thing that I thought about when you're talking about, like, so my grandma is also a great grandma, and you could do the grandkids' names around the heart. And then if you caught the preview, where was that, over here? No, wrong preview. There we go. So you could do the grandkids' names around the first heart, and then you could do the great grandkids' names around, or vice versa, just depending on which one has more names. So that part's up to you. Just another idea that I forgot to talk about first. So let's see. We're going to double click. Now let me show you what that does. Let me zoom in because I want you guys to see this. When we double click on Braden, now it's important to notice that I have not changed this in any way. I didn't ungroup it and regroup it. I didn't convert to path. This is still in the original text format, right? So you notice I get this little directional arrow here. I'm going to click and hold that. And when I bring it down to my heart, it will pop straight where I need it, straight into place. Okay, and then as I'm sliding my mouse, it will slide over. Okay, so I can put Braden's name wherever I want and move on to the next child. And we will put Christian here. I will probably move, can I move Braden over? I don't know if I have any names that are going to fit right there, but we can come back to that if we want. And then I can take a smaller name, and all I did was double click, and I can bring that over on the side there. And you know, this is almost like doing a puzzle, so don't be frustrated if you have to, you know, work with this a few times. So I'm going to move Grandma's name out of the way, and let's talk about putting names on the bottom half. So put Grandma back. With my names, I don't want them to be upside down, and that's what happens sometimes when you are working with text. Okay, so if I double click on Madison and I bring Madison's name down, it ends up upside down and it makes it hard to read. So what I want to do is pull Madison inside the heart, and then you can read it. Okay, but the other catch is that when I pull Madison inside the heart, now she's not, the name isn't actually aligned with the heart shape. So this little slider tool here is what you want. And see, when I hover, see if I can zoom in. If I hover over the slider, now my mouse changes from a regular click point mouse to the little directional arrow, and I can slide the name down and put it on the outside of the heart. So now the name Madison is more aligned with the shape of the heart. And I'm going to repeat that for the other side as well. Okay. And sometimes you got to, you know, pull the name off and slide it back on. Okay. So now we have two names. So let's get Grandma. All right, so that's actually a pretty good fit. All right. So once we're sure that those are the names that we want, we're going to click on them. Now I'm going to hold down my shift key and I will select all of these names. All right. Now I'm going to right click and choose convert to path. And now see how my heart changed back to red? That's because now those names are independent of the heart. Okay, so again, that one was convert to path. So let's move on with the rest of the design. Now I just use copy and paste, and I want to make a new heart. And I just want my new heart to be bigger than my existing one. It doesn't have to be perfect. And once again, we can use center to page and it pops it right into place, right? So let's put grandma back. And you just want to see, oh, well, I guess grandma needs to slide up a little bit. There we go. And I just want to see and make sure whether the grandma text was going to interfere with the outside circle at all. And it doesn't appear to. So we'll put grandma back out of the way. Okay, so Doreen asked, can we view it again later? Yes, this video is live right now, but it will be saved to the Facebook page so that you can come back and watch it multiple times. So, you know, don't be afraid that you have to remember everything right now. And some of you who are joining in for the first time, you know, you may be catching this on the replay, and that's fine too. So even if you think of questions later, be sure to put them in the comments, because I do come back and check on these videos to make sure that I get them all answered. Okay, so now I'm going to do grandma's name back in there. And now I can do the rest of my names. And when I do these, I don't want to say it's a catch, but I don't want my names to be stacked identical. And that's just a personal thing. Like, I don't want Brittany straight on top of Braden. So I will make sure that Brittany is off to the side, or, you know, maybe I'll put Brittany over here. Yeah, I like that a little bit better. And let's see, we'll put Ricky right there. Yeah, all right, we'll leave Ricky right there. But let's see who else we got. We got Aubrey. Now, sometimes, watch what happens when I get too close to other shapes, it makes it harder. Well, that one did it perfectly, you know, because I'm trying to show you. But it does make it harder sometimes when you're working with more than one shape to get the text to stick to the right one. So don't be, you know, afraid of that if you have to you know, redo this more than once. You might have to, you know, pull the shape off and try again. Let's see. Come on. See how it stuck to that name? So what I would do, well, there we go. What you can do though is if you keep having that problem, you can switch it to where you can move the inside of your heart out, or you could set up this heart out on the side and not have to do it, you know, right on top of each other. Let's see, and I'm going to be a couple names short. So also, if you don't have enough names, that's okay. You can actually use fonts that are wider, or just use bigger fonts as well, because that will take up more room. Now, it's important to notate that you can do this curve to path, or whatever you want to call it, you know, curve to a shape with any type of line that you bring in. So anything you trace, or if you can freehand draw a squiggly line, or, you know, a circle or a square or anything like that, you can do this method and it'll work perfectly. So let's see, who else do we want to include? Do my kids have any more friends? I don't know. Let's see, Camden is Madison's little boyfriend. And when she first told me about that, I had to make sure that he understood, you know, whether he was her boyfriend or not, because I wasn't quite sure if she had filled him in on that. And then Zayden is another little kid in her class. All right, and let's see. Let's pick a different font. I don't really have to, but I don't want it to all look the same. And I mean, what use is having all these really fun fonts if you can use them, you know? All right, so we will put Zayden. Nope, see, I don't want him upside down. So let's see if we can move him to, there we go, on the inside. Now also, did you see how his name spread out? So let's talk about that for a minute. So especially when you're working with circles, when you start moving the text to the outside of the circle, you can get these longer gaps. And if that's what happens to you, you can come in here and you can decrease or increase the character spacing right here. Okay, so don't be afraid to do that. Let's see. We'll put Zayden down here. We will move Ricky inside. And we'll fit Camden right here on the outside. Okay, so that's a lot of kids. Whether you need that many or not, I guess that's, you know, up to you and your family tree. So I will now select all of these. It's also important to say, you know, when you start designing, like say you were going to do this to sell, number one, you have to make sure you have commercial usage for these fonts, right? But number two, please make sure that you're including your designing time. So I selected them, right click, convert to path. But, you know, it can be tiresome, you know, going through and selecting the fonts and spacing them out. So don't be afraid to you know, charge what you're worth. That's where I'm going with that. All right, so we're gonna move back grandma out of the way again. Poor grandma, always moved out of the way. All right, so now what I want to talk about is creating like some little accents to fill in the spaces between these names. That way the heart shape looks more complete. So over here on the left-hand side, yours probably looks like a square or a rectangle. But what you can do is come over here and your ellipse tool is where you draw little circles. So I'm going to hold down my shift key. I'm just going to draw a little circle. It doesn't have to be very big. And I'm going to create it red just so that we can see it better. And I'm going to use these, and I'm just going to copy and paste and reposition them where I need them to go. Now, usually I would not make these red because I don't actually want them to stand out. So after I get done putting these into position, we will actually change those or at least cut those out of a vinyl or heat transfer vinyl that is less obvious. So like maybe a white or a gray, a light gray, depending on what color background you're putting it on. And you can space these out more. I'm putting them a little close together, but on my original design, I believe that I actually spaced them out more. All right, and you know, of course, this will have to be done for each one that you set up because the position of the names will be different for each one also. And you don't necessarily have to use dots. Those are just they're just pretty, you know, inconspicuous. They're easy to blend in with, you know, whatever color you're working on with the design. Now, if you noticed, I kind of skipped over the part that I know that grandma is going to be. And that's because I will bring grandma back and then fill in the areas that need to be filled in. And this will make more sense once we put the, once we move these hearts. So feeling pretty good about that. So I can move my hearts out of the way. Now I don't have to keep them, I can delete them. But once I move them out of the way, now the dots are what holds this design together. Now in the original too, you notice I actually put a couple hearts. So you can definitely do that. You can actually size this heart down. Okay, so if I've said, okay, I don't want these in there, I can add me a little heart to spice up the look of the file. And we'll make the heart red too. And because I always feel like I have to have balance, I'm going to make another little heart. And I can put this heart over here, maybe right there. So, you know, don't be afraid to sprinkle the little hearts around. And then if we want to, because say we're getting ready to cut this, right? So what we would need to do is, I think this is a designer edition feature. I'd have to check, but there's this select by color up here. It looks like a little art palette, and you can choose by fill color. And so I can then group all of my red together and hit the little group icon up here. Okay, and then I can do the same with black. Now what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to, let me ungroup these because I'm not ready yet. I'm going to switch grandma to red, and I'm going to group the hearts and grandma together. And then let's see, if I select all the red, I can hold down my shift key and deselect grandma and the hearts. And now I can group those together because I actually want to change the hearts to, what about that? Yeah, there we go. So it still holds the shape together, but it doesn't overwhelm, you know, using grandma on there. So now whenever it's time to cut, if I was going to, let me see, let's group my black back together. Red is grouped together, gray is grouped together. Now I would go ahead and make sure that this was to size. Okay, so whatever size, you know, I can group this together and size this to whatever size I need it. Okay, and then I'm going to right click and flip horizontally. You guys know I'm not a fan of allowing Silhouette Studio to flip for me or mirror for me. It's just not within my wheelhouse. So you'll have to forgive me for that. But I just go ahead and mirror it. And then I have two options. And you guys have heard me talk about this before. Now, usually I go old school and I'm like, okay, let's separate all the colors and I'll cut my gray first and I move my gray out of the way. And I cut my red next and I move my red out of the way. And I cut my black next and then I'm done, right? But if I didn't want to do that or I didn't care about wasting the vinyl, then in the send panel, you have, if you have designer edition or above, you have a cut by fill color right here where my mouse is at the top. Okay, and you see how everything, so the gray has dark gray outline, the black has dark black outline, and the red has a dark red outline. And if I start deselecting these, all those outlines disappear. So that outline is, you know, an indicator of what is going to cut and what is not. So for example, if I wanted to cut black, I can check the black and only my black pieces would cut. So then I could deselect and select red and only my red pieces would cut. And I could repeat that all the way through until I'm finishing my colors. Now, especially with the red, I wouldn't do that because I would feel like I would be wasting a whole lot of vinyl, especially heat transfer vinyl, and then I might have to shed some tears over it. But, you know, that's definitely something that you can do. So I'm gonna flip this back so that you can see it, all right? And I just want to go back and review your comments. So give me 1 second. I wanna make sure that I'm answering everybody's questions. Let's see. Let's see. Also, remember, I'm on a little bit of a time delay, so hopefully this will, guys, will give you a few moments to be able to catch up with where I'm at. So, all right. So I'm not seeing a whole lot of questions, so hopefully that's a good thing. Hopefully we kind of nailed it. And of course, I would love to see what you guys do with this. Like I said, there's a lot of different uses that you can work in there. Especially, you can even use different shapes. So whatever you decide to go with, please definitely either come back and post it in the comments or post it in my group or the Craft Community group or whatever. We definitely love to see what you guys do with these types of tips and techniques. So, all right, well, I'm going to wrap it up. Like I said, I'm not seeing any questions. So if you need me, you know where to find me. If you don't know where to find me, search for Silhouette Life Inspiration Box because that's where we're at. Now, tomorrow we'll be back. Let me see, what's tomorrow? I believe my live time is 4 o'clock. So 4 o'clock, I will be live and we will be doing a follow-up project that I also think you'll really like. So I will see you tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Thanks for joining in. You guys have a good night.